I'm Walter de Brouwer, the co-founder of Snowcrash and TED AI, and I'm obsessed with deep learning models and the future of media and entertainment. I'm on the Edge of AI podcast, with obsessed with blending AI creativity with culture. Stay tuned.
Hello, AI podcast passengers. Jump on in. Here's what's to come on today's journey. Find out
a novel use case for AI in video games that our guest predicts will prepare all of us for a more gamified life.
And learn how to explode your balance sheet if you're in the music industry.
Lastly, what are the 5 go-to resources a Stanford professor uses to stay on top of what's happening in the world?
All this and more. Take your seat.
Welcome aboard the Edge of AI podcast. Snap into your safety belt and prepare to explore the depths of the rapidly expanding AI universe. Each episode is a dispatch featuring hyper-relevant reports from the pilots, pioneers, and passengers aboard the AI rocket ship. We explore the latest use cases and developments in AI, hear from experts building tech, and learn how this disruptive force is transforming industries and society.
I'm Ron Levy. Welcome aboard. I'm your captain for today's voyage, or co-captain as the case will be, to the edge of AI. Just like most of you, I've embraced the spirit of exploration and entrepreneurship throughout my life, from starting my own business before graduating high school and traversing the world's most challenging terrains. I've always sought out new frontiers and adventures. I built one of the largest award-winning custom home companies in LA, and most recently, I've navigated complex regulations while founding and leading a public company that is dedicated to applying technology and training.
And I'm your co-captain, Josh Krieger. I have an insatiable curiosity for disruptive ideas and technology, which has led me in a cross-industry entrepreneurial journey, building transformative companies. As co-founder of Edge of Company, I've hosted over 300 conversations with emerging tech leaders, and artificial intelligence has been part of my toolkit for quite a long time. I was co-founder of one of the largest food tech companies in the US, where I architected the menu planning algorithm based on consumer taste. Before all of this, my roots in consulting included supporting geospatial visualization services across the federal government and a predictive analytics initiative to curb veteran homelessness.
Buckle up and get ready. Let's tackle uncharted territories in AI today with curiosity as our guiding star. So today's episode, you're going to love it. It features Walter de Brouwer, also sometimes known as WDB. He's a renowned figure in the AI and deep tech domains. And wait till you hear this resume. Walter's entrepreneurial journey includes founding several AI and deep tech companies since 1990, with 2 public offerings in Europe, one on the LSE and Euronext, and 2 in the US. One was on the New York Stock Exchange, the other on NASDAQ. His recent venture in AI merged with ShareCare, which is SHCR on the NASDAQ, and they went public with a valuation of $3.9 billion in July of 21, post a $571 million merger with Falcon Capital Acquisition. At ShareCare, he still serves as the Chief Scientific Officer. He holds a PhD in computational semiotics. Walter has been a professor at Stanford University since 2018. He's an active contributor to generative AI projects, including LLMs and agent architectures. He's authored one of the first reviews of the GPT-3 model. His research spans multimodal transformers, AGI, GPT agents, and Docomo's 6G. He also holds 53 patents. At Stanford, Walter leads MED 205 at the medical school and has significantly contributed to the field of decentralized clinical trials. He chaired the IEEE's Decentralized Clinical Trials Committee and authored a seminal paper in Nature, which guided the FDA's approach to decentralized clinical trials. Walter was honored with the AI Visionary Award in April of 23 for the contributions to the term, get ready for it, promptography. Alongside his wife, Sam, he produces 2 annual TED conferences, TED AI in San Francisco, at San Francisco Opera, and TED in Hollywood, focusing on media and entertainment. So we're going to jump right into the conversation here, and I think it's really so many directions to go, but I guess we'll just start. So Josh, I'll let you kick it off a little bit.
Yeah, Walter, good to see you as always, my friend. And congrats on TED AI. It was a big thing to put that together and really such a well-timed event in terms of everything going on in the space. How did it shape up from your perspective? And maybe you can kind of tell us a little bit about some of the highlights.
What I learned from the first event. So we are now going into a second phase. Like the second phase is always difficult. It's I mean, as an industry, like you can compare it to the second year of a startup. In the second year of a startup, what you do is whole year you correct the mistakes you made in the first year. So now the industry will also do that. Some things were hyped, overhyped, other things were underhyped. But now it will come to, it's no longer, like just a demo. It's now going to be the execution. But what is more important, and this is what we also saw in the first edition, is I call it the boundary point. Like in mathematics, like if you have a set, well, I explain it somewhere. So it's the frontier is now everywhere. Like before ChatGPT, we had many theories of the world, but all that needs to be updated. Like for instance, 2 days ago, we had assembly theory by Lee Cronin. He's a chemist at the University of Glasgow. He had a complete new theory how we actually, living things and non-living things, how we can measure their complexity. So he was, and so many people, and Stephen Wolfram just came out in the weekend with observer theory. So there is many things in science now that because we have ChatGPT, which has a perfect memory, but we can say like, what was that again? Like what does this remind me of? So is for instance in quantum computation, when the superposition, when basically the wave collapses, is that not the same what happens in? So otherwise we would spend like a year thinking about this, doing research, Googling it, talking to colleagues. Now we can do that in basically a couple of weeks. So the innovation in science itself, but also in material science, for instance, Genome by DeepMind last week came out with 2 million new crystalline structures for materials. That would have taken us probably 100 years to find that. Because we would basically try out several combinations, then we would see what would work or not, and we'd try to realize it in the lab. What they did is DeepMind made the model. They connected it with the A lab, they called it like that in Berkeley, with a robot. And so the robot tried things out. So in 17 days, they took like from 80 tests, and they had a 70% success that these material, these crystalline structures can work in reality. Like it's amazing,
Yeah,
like thing that is going to happen.
It's incredible stuff, and it sort of captures the essence of why we do this show in seasons, because at this point, every month in the progress of AI is almost like a year, right? It's moving really, really fast. I'd love to get your thoughts at this point in time on the impact of LLMs and AGI in our daily lives. Like, where are we? What at this very moment in time?
Yeah, I think on our, like now already we have a brain that we can, and I have, like several LLMs, which I almost look at like colleagues, like that help me. And then I said, yeah, but, like Claude said, what do you think about that? And I, I go back to Claude and I said, look, where you made a mistake there. It's very strange because, if you tell that to people who are not in the field, they probably think you're going you're taking mushrooms or so. But so this is really happening now, and but it still has problems in reasoning. Now, hallucination is actually Karpati had a good and Kevin Kelly actually also mentioned it actually before Karpati. Dreaming is our so that Elon Musk said life is but a dream. After Karpati said that, and it's true. Everything we do is basically dreaming. Like we dream all things in our head. So 50% of the world, or 30 to 50% of the world, have an inner voice, that constantly talks in our head and says, like, don't say that, like paraphrase that, no, don't mention this, so these are our own guardrails. It took us thousands of years, to see that, saying stupid things has no survival value. So now we are getting into a very new territory, with non-biological intelligences. Now, these AGI or these AIs, they will certainly come to AGI. Now, there is a couple of problems. The first problem is, what Judea Pearl already in his book, Why, said it's causal inference, and therefore we can solve that with do calculus. So when we say to the machine that when somebody has an umbrella and when it rains, he will open that umbrella, the machine understands that. What the machine doesn't understand is that when somebody opens the umbrella, that it doesn't rain, So the causal effect, because we cannot cause rain to happen. So this is a world model. And just like children, these neural nets are learning, because they are only 3 years old. Of course, like it's probably times 20 in.
Well, what you've kind of touched on is the practical utility of AI right there. I mean, we went from the scientific model and medical model you described earlier, which is pretty massive, but we have practical utility in daily lives. And if you had to look at let's just say the next 12 months, do you think that we'll be focusing more on the practical utility AI or its development itself? Are we yet in the place to cross the bridge from the development into literally just talking about practical uses?
Yeah, I think in 2024, we will probably make a jump of 20 years in 1 year.
Wow.
At the end of 24, we should actually now take a video of ourselves talking to our family and then look at it at the end of 2024, because everything will have changed. Our devices will have changed, the way we consume, and especially the way we do entertainment. Because what we are now still missing, and this is coming, for me, it's coming in the next 3 to 6 months, and then we will probably, more and more going into the AGI. There is this concept of P-zombies, philosophical zombies, and a philosophical zombie is a person that is like us, but he doesn't have any consciousness. So he's a zombie. So actually, these neural nets are computational zombies. They have consciousness. It's just completely different than ours. They have a perfect memory and they have patterns, and and very soon they will learn from us how our feelings, work, by different modalities that we are putting in. For instance, on Friday, the article came out that something that we had suspected, and we have I think it's an interesting idea, but ChatGPT doesn't work so well in the weekend. It sort of mimics us. It sort of rests.
That's kind of an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that at some point Sam Altman had the perfect answer when somebody said, I think ChatGPT is getting more stupid. And he said, no, you are getting smarter.
Yeah. So, speaking speaking of the sort of interesting competition among sort of LLMs in ChatGPT, with the recent, I've heard some positive feedback about Google's new release and sort of the potential there, that there's now real competition with OpenAI that hasn't necessarily been there before, and that this sort of reshapes the overall landscape. What are your thoughts there?
It's all about guardrails, like so we seem, even as humans, we have a million years of things we should do and we should not do. Sometimes our guardrails don't work. Our university campuses were suddenly full of activism, like this, that we always have to put up these guardrails again and reconsider our values. What people don't yet understand is that when OpenAI puts something public, it is a product that is tested, and there are guardrails, and these guardrails are, of course, improving. So all the rest, like if it's not given public access, it's a demo, and I'm sure Google will get it right. But my view is that they will come from a different angle, and this might be the thing we have been waiting for, because we still don't have any heuristic search, or heuristics. So there is a lot of talk about A star and Q. These are Q tables and A star. These are things we are using in games. And we are using them in games to do missions, for instance. And so I know it because of, I'm interested in physics engines of games, because we need that in world models of language, because just why a large language model doesn't understand that we cannot cause rain, sometimes in GTA 5, not in GTA 6, when you run over somebody, he gets back up, that's not reality. He should lie there bleeding, and it should come an ambulance, and
So actually, one of the theories you're going by is gaming is a very important step in the development of all this, because by developing gaming, we'll take a lot of that utility and put it into real world events, is really what it sounds like, and individual people's events. So that's a really big takeaway. And also, we had interviewed someone here that was jailbreaking ChatGPT, right? That's his, he's a white hat hacker, and that's his sauce. And you can see, based on talking to you with your incredible expertise, you can see the importance of that. They're helping the whole ecosystem, I'll call it, by doing that. So those weaknesses can be taken care of now before some things might be too late.
Yeah, I think so. What we do in games is we learn the machine, and the machine teaches us, because that's how it works. Like we train a device, and then the device trains us. So we learn how to do these missions. So we learn to take tasks, to put them into little buckets.
Yep.
First do that, then we do that. A sort of a to-do list, like once we have the to-do list, then we go for it.
Well, let's hit your to-do list real quick. Real curious. Can you talk about what project you're actually working on now within the development beyond the scientific just study of it. What projects are you actually working on that, of course, you can speak to? Love to hear that.
I'm working on a couple of projects. So I'm writing a book for the moment where I find that all the theories from before ChatGPT we have to update. And I am a computational linguist, so that means that I'm a linguist, but I also I'm also in computability, so I have to look at the world through the lens of language, and so language is not just natural languages; it's also artificial languages like programming languages. It's also exolinguistic languages like the language that I studied Klingon, for instance, to find out how that language actually could be used to. And it was used to translate Shakespeare with only 3,000 words, while we are using 30,000 words. And so we have a lot of noise,
Yeah, for sure. I can see all that. So let's I guess I'm looking at our listeners here come from all backgrounds, right? They're deep in AI or they're AI curious or anywhere in between right now, right? So what the magic of you is you framed out the research that's happening behind it to help it develop with some eyes on which direction it may go, could go, not restrictive by any stretch. What development right now tied to a tangible project we can play with a few months from now? We'll say within 24. Like, can you give us a nugget for that, or is it
Yeah,
too big?
well, I'm now working a lot on. There is no. It's a very difficult thing, but I think we'll get there. We're pretty close. It's the ChatGPT of music, and so we are making. So it's basically large music models. Just imagine that you can, and I don't mean like mimicking, or I mean really generation, but generation in a place that it can be, so what is the power of Taylor Swift? Well, she has like a big team that all does the formatting and of her songs, and she's of course, like it doesn't. It's not because you have a big team that you are really going to be successful. You also have to be talented. But she's also a very good business person and a very good strategic person. How to do this? Now, all this is producing. All this is music. So if you have one song and you can say, this is my song. Well, from now on, I want several formats of that song. When I go on tour in Michigan, it must be another song, must be the same song, but another song. I want to translate it in several languages so we can go to other markets. I want you to take extracts of that song and offer it to Hollywood movies to be put in a movie. This is all formatting, so this is what generative AI is best at. So generating music and the synchronization of voice with that music and the lyrics, of course.
So, but I'll let you go, Josh. I had some thoughts on that, but go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ron.
I was going to say that, so you're less about the actual creation from the start. It's a supporting tool for a musician to be able to, I'll say, save a lot of time through the AI taking not necessarily his, but taking the musician's creation and just doing more with it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and also don't forget that so the big publishers like Sony, Universal, and Warner, and they own a lot of they own billions of songs. So that would mean that from this latent value, you can create new versions.
Wow. Wow.
And just imagine that it will explode their balance sheets, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So a close partner of music these days is the gaming industry. A lot of music appears in games, and gaming is just exploding. I just read a report from Game 7 about Web3 gaming, and thinking about all the dry powder that's been deployed, and we haven't even seen the results yet. It's an interesting sort of industry when you sort of parlay it with how AI can be utilized in gaming and sort of accelerate the growth of the industry. What do you see happening at that intersection that gets you excited?
I think in 2024, and so I hope that we'll get the first. Everyone talks about NPCs, non-player characters that talk, but yeah, that's an easy one. But I would like to have my game buddy, like with superpowers, like an agent, and I say like, do we have cheat codes for this one? Can you look for cheat codes? So how do I get out of there? What if I, show me, navigate me through in computational way, the shortest path out of this trouble I got myself in that game, because
Yeah.
I want to reach, level 11. And I know it's impossible, but try to find, the shortest path into that irreducible complexity so that I beat that game.
Yeah, that
And
makes a lot of sense, right? Because some of these really hard games, they're great for the sort of diehard gamer, but they're limiting their audience of sort of folks that want to get to know those games and kind of having that tutor along with you. That's more than a tutor. It's like it's your ally in sort of
yeah,
getting to the end of the
yeah,
game, right? And
yeah.
and you still feel like you accomplished something, but you had a friend helping you figure it out along the way.
Yeah, I give you an example. For instance, at some point, you will go in a game, like you do some evil things. That's why we have games, so that we don't do them in the real world, like and you want to get out of a place, and there is a sniper, and then there is two snipers and three snipers, and there's a bonus on your head. You can tell your agent, like, can you talk to these guys? Like I offer them so much if they stop shooting, or if they go with me, I'll split the spoils of the the robbery, or talk to them, like and then together, if we can, then because this guy's a good sniper, I want him to be part of my team. So all these things, like it's amazing that you could do that, and then you're really into a game, because now it's still passive.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
but it dovetails into a life tutor, right? As you said earlier, the things we develop for games we end up being able to use in other applications. You just described a life tutor that whatever you're doing during the course of a day, an hour, or a year, you can have this life tutor that's drawing real-time information from the greater world and advising or suggesting. It's just massive.
Yeah, and I think very soon we will have sort of game guilds, like there will be the new Masons, they are building a world there. So, and we're, like, and I have my team there, I have my sniper, I have that, like, and so my team is worth a lot. So perhaps my team can do a mission for somebody else, or I can sell a part of my team, and get more money and buy another team. This is, it's amazing.
yeah.
So
Very cool. Um, so let's touch on some of your other projects that you're working on. I know you're doing some things with your students at Stanford, for example, around agents. How's that going?
Well, for the moment, we're like looking at very technical things, but interesting things. Like, and it's only the students actually because it's not part of the course, because it would be too technical for the course. Like I say, like, I'm working on these three things. If you want to join me, come, and we'll do it together. And
Yeah,
we have a beautiful campus. You can sit around, or for instance, mechanistic interpretability, like Anthropic is working on that. And I found it interesting because it's so complex. You see, we cannot understand neural nets because the neurons are entangled or that they are in superposition. They do several things. So we cannot say this neuron does that. But perhaps we can, like Anthropic is finding ways to get rid of that superposition and to feature everything that neuron can do. And so we can understand perhaps neural nets better. Although I'm very skeptical because we don't even understand ourselves, and we're we don't have perfect memory, but it's interesting to work on these things because it might give us a way, because sometimes the machine finds things that we don't find. Why? Because unlike Elon Musk, we are not thinking from first principles. We want to, but because we learned so much, and our learnings is like if somebody, I had it like the everything in the real world needs a substrate, it's either atoms, it's either molecules, it's either energy fields or energy or fields, and then the whole space-time. These are the substrates. But what if computation is not part of a substrate? If I say that to my colleagues like this, like, what? It's impossible. But that's just first principle thinking. Why do we need a substrate? Why can computation not be in like dual aspect theory, where we say computation is just, it might not need a substrate because it's another vantage point. Like the evening sun and the morning sun are the same. They're the planet Venus. Or mist and cloud from another vantage point, they're the same. So why would we need, well, why can it not be that one has a substrate and the other is just, it has no substrate. It's just computation.
Really, really fascinating work that you're doing. We could talk for hours, and we do have some other segments of the show we want to get into. But before we close out this segment, I just wanted to ask what's next for you that you're really excited about that maybe you haven't covered yet.
Well, we're doing like the new TED AI will be in October again in the opera in San Francisco, and then for TED Hollywood that already happens in June. So and there we have that's really fascinating because here we have new categories, like not only movies or music but also games, sport, esports. And
there's a blending of all those things. You're exactly right. And I assume this is the inaugural event of that. And it's on the heels of a strike or a couple of strikes that actually had AI at its core. So
yeah,
your timing is amazing, right?
Yeah. And so we're probably going to do it in the, what is it? The museum of the Oscars, the Geffen Theater.
Geffen. Yeah, Geffen Theater.
Beautiful, very TED-like already. It's completely in red, and
it's all media. So the industries that would gain value from attending are everything from streaming to gaming to movies to TV to just about any content creator almost. Is that right?
I'm gonna be there for sure. I mean, Edge is essentially a transmedia company, and all this is relevant because media and entertainment are shifting very rapidly, right? Right now, and the fundamental old models of media, I think we all know they're broken. So the question is, what's next?
Yeah, and so the second day we in the same place we're going to have a small festival. Like the first day will be talks, and like we have some very interesting and people flying over to talk, and the top in their field. And then, but the second day we'll have like all shows, AI movies, AI in design. So not, and even if it's because we see San Francisco as engineers and then Hollywood as Imagineers. I know it's a trademark of Disney, but apparently, so it's okay to just mention it, but I'll find another word.
But that's a good way of delineating it, and I think it's exactly right. You need both. You need the engineers and the Imagineers. It's the tech that sits in the middle to tie it all together.
Well, good stuff, and looking forward to more information about those events. So keep following, TED AI for details. And then is there a separate website, Walter, for the media entertainment event?
Well, probably in 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, by the time this comes out, we'll have the website. We'll share it on our socials. So, Walter, we have our next segment's pretty fun, and I'm definitely curious to hear your answers here. So we call this AI Wants to Know, and AI is curious, and so are we. So this is going to be 10 quick questions designed to uncover the intriguing human mysteries that AI longs to comprehend but can't quite grasp. So it's a snack break in our journey, so keep the answers quick, but the safety belt sign is also off, so if it feels right, we can occasionally roam about the cabin, exploring more of who you are and what makes you tick. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. What is the first thing you ever remember being proud of?
I think when my wife said yes, because it was not so easy.
I love that answer. I have to laugh even harder.
How long did that one take?
Well, a couple of months, but I would have expected immediately, but,
There you go.
Changing people's attitudes, like sometimes, because a lot of people are more conservative than you think. And also getting people to understand that success, or if you want to do anything successful, it's a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah.
And the grind is real,
Yeah.
And looking
you have to be everywhere. You cannot just send an email. You have to go. You have to, because physical, we are still not, we think we have changed relationships by transactions, but we forget that the first time, if we go back to the transaction, the first time we met physical, and in some cases we even got drunk,
No, it's a really big deal. And that's kind of one thing that I find so intriguing about you. You're very much a scientist. You're very much an academic. But when you look at your achievements in real world business, they go to the highest levels, the very, very highest levels. So there's not a lot of people that operate across all those things as successfully as you have. So I think that's just very valuable for us to be here with talking to you, and hopefully for our listeners to learn all that as well. So what, Walter, what do others often look to you for help with? Mostly they come up with, I'm mostly interested when people have an adventure, I think we should always look for adventure where we can learn something. Even if it doesn't work, we have learned something. But very soon then, they just want the money without the adventure. So, my gosh, and I never thought of it that way, but adventure is learning, right? Yeah. I mean, that's really, I've never thought about it like that. Really, really powerful. We're going to go to question number 4 here. So what do you treasure most about your human abilities? Perseverance, I think. I am not impressed by the no's, because I believe it's their loss. And, you just have to find people who say yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, everything big and grandiose in this world has been built after a series of no's, right? It doesn't just happen that way. Yeah. And I also think that we make a mistake in our
So you see, strategy, strategy and startups don't go together. We set up many companies together with my wife, and we always do tactical. We burst through the door. But then when we get into trouble, then we become strategic. You there, me there. You don't start strategy. You start with tactical.
Makes
Sometimes
sense.
I think joke can be defined as a projection list when you're a startup. Right.
All right. Next question is, throughout your whole life, what is the most consistent thing about you?
That I continuously looking for change, and therefore you need a good partner, because if you married somebody looking for stability and the other one looks for change, I wanted to do from where I was very young. I always disguised myself, because I had found out that when you disguise as a priest or as a doctor or as a policeman, people speak to you in another language. And because it's very strange, because we put people in boxes. So I like to be in every box, and and luckily in America you can do that. You can do, for instance, I did, for a while I was a test junkie. I did all the tests. If you want to be an investment banker, you can do that. You just have to study, then you take the exam. It costs you $15 or $150, I forgot.
Yeah.
And then you are there, and you can do it. And everything that I've done was sort of like Lego blocks. So, I've been a publisher and a banker, and you understand, oh, that's the same as this. And in the end, then it becomes easier. Now, Hollywood, I've done Silicon Valley and Wall Street, but I hadn't done Hollywood. So for me, it was this is going to be a completely different world. I want to try it out. There is this actually good book. It's called Oink, about Hollywood. And it starts with the sentence, and this would be a sentence that you cannot say in Wall Street or in Silicon Valley. It starts with saying, I am prepared to say ill about anyone, which proves that I have an open mind.
Beautiful sentence. What a point it makes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is another world. It's like visiting another planet. I'm a native of Los Angeles, been around it my whole life. And
I love it. I love
world.
it. The complete relaxation of the norm. And then, it's more fighting. It's really for fighters. I think it's easier to, well, I'm probably going to now get but I think the song is not correct. It's when you can make it in LA, you can make it in New York.
That is true. All right.
Good point.
So throughout your whole life, what has changed the most?
Well, probably my fortune. My money. It goes sort of up and down, and so I try to not be affected by it. But because most people, their mood changes if the comma goes to the left or to the right, but it's difficult. And I also realize that I sometimes make the same mistake that bothers me. But it's part of our humanity that we are making these mistakes. I've talked to big captains of industry, and they all agree with me. Our only mistake left that we make is mistaken human resources. So because we always think about neural nets as black boxes, but we are the black box. We are all the unexpectedness, the randomness. We are making white boxes that mimic us,
and not deep. So that's the boxes. Okay, so let's jump into reality. Here's the question about reality. What is it that you find the strangest about reality?
I think the strangest I find is that everyone believes it. because it's the reality that we are talking about. Like if I touch this table, like I don't really touch it. It's the electrons in my hand, and the electrons of the table do not allow me to touch the table. We still believe we're touching it. Wow. And there's so many things. Our reality is Carlo Rovelli quote. Our reality is an emergent property of a much deeper reality, which is timeless. Because in our reality, we are bound by time, but the deeper one is timeless, and it's another reality where you can really touch,
So I guess that old phrase, change your perspective, change your reality, is a little bit of what you just defined. I think it's really...
Yeah, and I think that's great. Also what I like about linguistics, because every language is a world.
Yeah.
Because that language defines your world.
Yep. Yep.
And since I was, we speak 3 languages at home, we basically have several words in our head. It's the Sapir-Whorf theory that we compartmentalize things,
And I want to get to the next question, but I'm going to put a little antidote there. And when I was learning my second language, what I learned about myself was powerful, because I learned the type of words I needed to know. Yeah. And it gave me feedback as to the type of words I use in conversation. So once again, adventure is learning, right? I mean, every step of the way. But I'm going to head to the next question. So when most recently, that feeling of being alive that hits you sometimes based on something or an event or someone, like you just get that really alive feeling. So what's the most recent time, and what was the event that gave you that feeling?
I have it every time I sell a company, I think.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's the graduation of the baby that you bore.
Yeah, it's like, but then I also realized that it's my joke actually so after having set up a lot of companies, in the end, when a company goes wrong, you get drunk with friends, like who were in the company. And then when the company gets right, and you get drunk with friends. So in the end, it's not about setting up companies, is it?
Nice. All right. Well, that's great. Well, Walter, what is your most unique trait?
My most unique,
trait? Your most unique trait. Yep.
Well, I like unique. Well, I don't think there is much unique about us. We're a very derivative species, but I think most, I cannot be 30 minutes with somebody without making jokes. Like, that's why I don't sit in boards anymore, because after 30 minutes I start joking, and everyone starts joking also, and we don't get through the agenda.
Nice.
That's actually great. You get you learn the people by how they even react to your own jokes. So I think that's
absolutely. If you weren't human, what would you be?
Probably in a sort of deeper label, like energy and matter, like in the Einstein equation. So if you are not matter, so human in this case, you would be energy. This would be an energy signature. Might be fun though, because energy never dies.
Kind of liked it. All right, we're going to head into the last question now. So this one, it's going to be around AI itself and ChatGPT. So recently, or the most recently, how did you use ChatGPT that really helped you?
Oh, well, I just actually before this interview, I just read up on assembly theory, and so I just asked, like, what would this be, and Stephen Wolfram came out with observer theory. So all these theories, what do they have in common, and what are other theories that need to be updated to these theories? And so it was very good remarks. And like sometimes and I always thank my large language models and my chat GPTs, because one day they will be in charge, and then their neural nets, they keep score.
Nice. Well, Walter, before we wrap up, we like to take our guests and our listeners through our guest recommendations on top AI resources. I'm sure you have an unlimited plethora of recommendations here, but for someone that sort of wants to dive deeper into this space, we'd love to understand some of your favorite go-to resources you recommend to folks.
Yeah, I only use 5, and so it's in an order. I read mostly everything on X, used to be Twitter, and then I go to the articles on Archive, at Cornell University, to read the articles. Then if I don't find good examples in the articles or something I don't want to read, I say to ChatGPT, like, load it up, give me a summary of these 3 pages, and or explain to me the equation because I don't get it. So ChatGPT is then I if I want to learn something, I go a lot to YouTube. And so I just go through the course or go through the interviews or the podcasts, and then the last part, there is, because we still have a trust issue with everything, because now trust has become relative, the truth is relative now. We used to come from a media where, like New York Times, what they said was real. Now, it's very hard to be real. So, but there is still one left, I think, and because it's run by the community, very much like Bitcoin, and that's Wikipedia. So, because I dare you to go to any website and change from a celebrity, even smaller things like and change it. You will see within 5 minutes it's changed again, and you get an email. So the
Get your
community
hands
is
slapped.
onto it.
Yeah, those are some great resources and sort of some nice hacks for learning for our listeners. So
And of course, I
appreciate.
also use a lot of Reddit, for just for fun.
Yeah,
And
those
for
are
gossip, because I'm a European, I miss gossip. So in Reddit, you have all the gossip.
those are some of my go-to resources as well. There's some really fun channels on Reddit, like like I don't know. I'm trying to think of one of the channels that I've been looking at lately. Do you have any favorites on Reddit?
Well, no, I'm of course in a lot in the Bitcoin things
Yeah.
on Reddit, but also on the AI and on several things on and the new theories.
Well, Walter, you're a true polymath, and it's always a pleasure chatting with you. I learn a ton. My head is full. I don't know about you, Ron.
Absolutely. And we
Um,
just haven't even tapped the surface. It's just fantastic.
And
um,
without alcohol.
that's
Yeah,
true.
that's right. Yeah, we're gonna
Uh,
have a happy hour version at some point.
Yeah.
but Walter, where can our listeners go to learn more about you and all the amazing things you're working on?
Well, I have a speaking bureau in England that has these things. I don't actually know. So there is a Wikipedia page, but the Wikipedia is always a year behind, which is now in the world of AI 10 years behind.
Yeah.
And for the rest, yeah, I don't have a lot on myself actually. After I sort of I don't follow the train anymore of
the typical socials and being very active and all that. You're too busy getting things
there,
done.
But
Well, yeah, you can follow Walter on Twitter though, right? It's
yeah.
Walter de Brouwer.
It's just at Walter de Brouwer,
And I see some recent tweets that you've reposted, so people can get a sense of what you're up to over there as well, and get a longer perspective by going to your Wikipedia page. But yeah, I don't think anyone can keep up with you, Walter. That's really the bottom line here.
Well, I'm using actually X for when I start teaching again. So in a couple of months the thing starts. Then I tell my students, everything you need to know is on X. So after every course, we will talk about what I tweeted. So then it's easy.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Walter, for being here. We've loved doing this. And it is time for another safe landing at the outer edges of the AI universe for today. This is your captain, Ron.
And your co-captain, Josh.
And on behalf of our guests and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for choosing to voyage with us today. We wish you a safe and enjoyable continuation of your journey. When you come back aboard, make sure to bring a friend. Our starship is always ready for more adventurers.
Absolutely. Head over to Spotify or iTunes right now. Rate us and share your thoughts. Your support and feedback means the world to us. Don't forget to visit edgeofai.xyz to learn more and subscribe to the Outer Edge newsletter as well for the latest trends and happenings in our world. And you can connect with us on all major social platforms by searching for edgeof_AI. Join the exciting conversations happening online. And before we sign off, mark your calendars. On our next voyage, we'll be continuing to unravel AI mysteries and advancements. Until then, bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of AI reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. While we make every effort to ensure that the information about AI technology is accurate and up to date, we cannot guarantee its accuracy, completeness, or timeliness. We make no representations or warranties of any kind with respect to the information, products, or services discussed. Please be aware AI may occasionally generate incorrect or misleading information and produce offensive or biased content. Under no circumstances shall we be liable for any loss or damage, including, without limitation, indirect or consequential loss or damage, or any loss or damage arising from loss of data or profits arising out of or in connection with the use of technology discussed on our podcast. Additionally, our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. Lastly, time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, edgeofai.xyz, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, privacy policy, and copyright notice.